Yeah, dude, we got to figure out how to get you to the dentist. That's miserable. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about that and Joe. Even though a lot of people aren't liking Joe, like well, not a lot of people. I just mean like um Pauline and Sam. And I'm gonna stop talking about that because we're about to go live.
Live now.
All right. And
yeah, I figured a couple things out with that. I looked into some things.
I remember last time.
all right, yeah, we're live. So I'll go ahead and kick it off. Hopefully people will join in as we
I'll pull it up as well.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. That it's good if we can both watch the chat to talk to folks. I definitely want to try to make it more engaging. Which I think we do a good job at, but I don't want to forget about the chat and ignore people. But yeah, right. Yeah. But it's good that we can both watch the chat too.
Yeah, it's up.
I'm hearing background. I'm hearing a delay in your background.
Here now.
Oh, that's bad. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I fixed it.
Hey. Hey everybody, welcome to Collapsing with Casey. This is our normally we do these Friday, the Drunk, Stone, and Scared live stream. We normally do on Friday, but Justin has a show tomorrow night, so that's awesome. Congratulations, Justin. Glad you're playing what hopefully isn't your last show, but as we know, who fucking knows, right?
Definitely will be one of them. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's just like a little 3-band garage type show out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's that's with collapse and COVID and everything, and unfortunately, you don't have the name of a Paul McCartney or something like that, so it's no different than hey, I'm doing a live stream in my living room. It's kind of but it's even I don't know, it's even more awkward, I guess, or I can't really compare that to playing a show in a garage because live streams are on YouTube are really meant to be done in your living room, right? That's pretty normal. And garage shows are always cool. I mean, every good band starts out just, being kids playing in garage. And obviously you're not a kid anymore, but you have been playing music for your whole life. Since your family are musicians. So, you've kind of grown up in that. It's good that and you're fucking really good at your trade. Like you love heavy metal and and even some punk rock and you play like just you can pretty much play anything, right? That's pretty cool. That's very talented.
Like 90%.
I was thinking of something I forgot to say earlier. It sounded funny, but if I can remember, it's like when I say, Justin, man, you gonna sing through your guitar, man? You gonna amplify through the drums? Oh, it's stupid, but but it's cool. Like you play so many instruments that it's really cool that you're so talented. And I know doing garage shows and you're like your dream of playing in stadiums or even sold out clubs and stages and stuff like that. But like we know collapse, right? It's just
you kind of have to play what you can. Like the last few shows I played were either outdoors in the woods or in my own backyard, my old apartment, because there were no venues over the last something like over a year now. And like at least 14 months since venues have been closed. So
Yeah, there's a fuckload of weird shit going on. So like, you know, we're trying to help our friend Joe Black. You know, he gets it. I think when you get the information and you know, and when you understand that it's over, it's really hard to be motivated to go and just slave yourself every fucking day, right? Like if you can do something that's kind of easy and laid back and kind of kick back, kind of like what I do. You know, I'm mostly a desk jockey, sell parts. Some of the shit's heavy, and sometimes I gotta lift some shit or drive a forklift. You know, it's a pain in the ass. But I'm not fucking digging ditches all day. I'm mostly in an air conditioned. You know, it's not the fucking worst thing in the world, other than the fact that my time. You know, I still got to do 40-hour work weeks. That's still most of your life is spent at a fucking job and not being able to live your fucking life. Hey, back to Earth. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you too, man. You know, yeah, and you know, you spend all your time working and being enslaved and uh, chasing the fucking dollar because you can't get enough with jobs are so shitty. And I'm lucky. I'm really lucky that I have a job that is not a fucking $8 an hour job. Because obviously I couldn't afford to live unless I had parents that helped me, or collapse them with Casey listeners that helped me, which they have before when I was struggling because I was fired for almost a year. It's I used to drive to work, and I'm starting to get that back to that point now where driving into work every morning, every bridge I cross over, I just want to stop and just fucking jump off because it's not fucking worth it. I'm privileged as a motherfucker, because I got a nice, comfortable home to come home to. But when I'm leaving that home, go and deal with morons. We have this sales guy that came in. This sales guy just rubs me the wrong way all the time because we buy from his company, but it's it's like basically like a local Napa auto parts store. I don't need you to come to me and try to show me your specials for the month when it's all stuff that I don't buy because we're just a different company. I work for is just a different. We don't do a whole lot of chassis, big truck stuff, but we do. And I don't need you to come by to sell me a battery when I can just call and talk to the parts guy at your store and order a battery or hose or whatever, a turbo hose or whatever it is I'm needing. This guy, every time he fucking comes in, dude, he just parrots the fucking, whatever was on the morning news, that whatever Trump said this morning, or now it's Biden, whatever Biden said this morning on the news. And he just parrots that shit. And
that's important stuff. That's really important stuff.
Yeah, and they still fucking believe it like it's real and it's truth and it's newsworthy, right? And it's fucking bullshit. So he's like, Biden's talking about, they're going to end unemployment because people are just sitting on their couch collecting unemployment and not working. And I snapped. And obviously I can't talk to a customer this way. But this fucking sales dude, I was like, that's bullshit. I was like, you go to work for $8 an hour and see if you can afford to leave your fucking house. I didn't say fucking, but I said it's bullshit. And I fucking was, he was like, sir? He was just like, I caught his attention. I was just like, I'm so fucking sick of these fucking morons just fucking parroting whatever Biden or Trump or, fucking Rush Limbaugh. Hey, fuck you, Rush. I'm glad you're dead. You should have never existed, you motherfucker. Oh, sorry, I'm so angry. I guess it's the booze. But, fuck these people, man. And this guy comes in and he's just like, people don't want to work because they're just laying on the couch collecting unemployment. Motherfucker, I've worked since I was 13 years old. Granted, I wasn't on the books at 13 because I shoveled horse shit for a barn. I wasn't fucking paying taxes on that shit because I was 13. I got dropped off at the barn by the school bus on early work release program. So I could go to work because school didn't fucking teach me anything or pay the bills. And at 13, I had to feed myself because my parents were, even though they were wealthy, they didn't give a fuck about me. I was a fucking accident. So I just can't stand it when these people talk about people being like welfare cheats and unemployment benefit cheats. I've never fucking qualified. I'll take that back. I've qualified many times for unemployment. Have I ever gotten one unemployment check? No, never. I've had employers lie. I've just been not gotten in contact with, never.
Well, I mean, I think that this information is only going to continue to ramp up. And
Yeah.
I think that's just par for the course.
And this is going back years, not even collapse level of today, but obviously, it's much worse today. And people just fucking buy that shit, man. I wanted to get up out of my chair, as fat and lazy as I am, and over it, and just fucking like chop his bald head off right at the fucking mid cranium, because I'm just sick of that dude. And and not just him, but everybody just parroting fucking stupid bullshit like, McDonald's, they're gonna pay $15 an hour, and that's gonna make the cost of food go up. Motherfucker, the cost of everything is already going up. Like like our friend Pauline says.
It's not even until 2024 though.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, it's not even like
The
it's not
cost
even
of
going to
food,
happen in
cost
with
of-
humans on the planet.
cost of food is going up. The cost of a lot of materials, lumber is going up. Steadily creeping up, but that's also fluctuating. That's kind of different. But a lot of resources, and like you said, especially food. Think about things that I'm going to get into a little later. Have to do a few things like that.
We're seeing what as Israel is always doing to Palestine. If anybody wants to get me fired, you can get me fired. You can contact my work and say I'm anti-Israel, because if I say that, I could get fired. That's how fucked up this system and this society is. So obviously Israel has been attacking Palestine for decades, right? It's just now there's like a couple of little corner pockets. It's just like what we did to the Native Americans, who we call illegals, our racist fellow citizens call illegals, and our politicians and our government, of course. We pretty much eradicated them, but here's a shitty little piece of land over here you can have. So everything's we took care of you. We didn't kill all of you. You're fine. It's just so fucking disgusting.
Yeah, but there's a lot of tensions that are manufactured and artificial in some way are going to escalate over this summer and next summer too, if we get that far. Because currently a lot of even the quote unquote economic news is talking about different protests. Like Colombia had protests over some sort of tax hike that the government decided not to do. People died over it. The finance minister resigned. And then they were like, all right, well, that's going to stop the protests. And then people kept going out in the streets because they wanted better wages. They wanted better quality of life. And there's different protests like that. Off the top of my head, I got to check my notes. I don't know if I wrote any of the other ones down, but I saw a couple of them. And that has a lot to do with either COVID restrictions in different countries, or food shortages that are looming, or economic crises that are going on at the same time. There's a lot going on in the geopolitical sphere, and I sat outside today and I live pretty close to a baseball field that random school teams use. And I just hear people cheering and just going off and enjoying this baseball game. And it's just kind of a metaphor to me for everything going on. That we're always going to be celebrating the big, the World Cup or the Super Bowl or the World Series. It's always going to be at the forefront. It's funny, Mike Rupert said something in 2012, I think, about 2020 Olympics getting canceled because of Fukushima. And that was 8 years ago. And then they ended up getting canceled anyway because of COVID. And I was like, well, he was right about the 2020 Olympics not happening.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it's cool.
And even with Fukushima, that that shouldn't, even if COVID hadn't have ever happened, the Olympics should have never happened there, either way, right? Because that's it's too much radiation. It's so fucked, and we're, as we know, 450 plus nuclear power plants are, as we collapse worldwide, those fuckers are going to down. And when there's no gas pumps and there's going to be no food at stores, and there's no reason to go to work for food, because you're just wasting your gas. And some of those people work at nuclear power plants, obviously going to collapse, and
yeah, that's very true.
Radiation, and I know it's just insane. Yeah, and things are getting heavy, especially for people who are struggling, who were already struggling financially, as the cost of living is doubling. Some of our food is doubling. Food costs are doubling on certain items, or are going, and obviously are going to disappear. Like, I've heard stories about the Great Depression, which we are in a stage worse than the Great Depression overall. Yet back in the Great Depression, people would have to load up a wheelbarrow of money, haul it down to the store for a loaf of bread. I've heard stories like that, and we're not far from that. All your spare change that you've ever, accumulated, that you throw in the bin, in the for a rainy day, maybe a few years worth of that spare change soon might buy you that last loaf of bread. Fucked up, man. It's fucked up. The chaos that we are going to see in collapse with just in America alone, all the people in America, even places there, even people that are kind of like, maybe their local Walmart is 45 or more minutes away. They're not going to have anything anywhere. And if they make that trip to their Walmart, it's going to be a fucking war zone. And then when you get to if you even are able to, go through that process, somehow there won't be, well, I was going to say, if you get through the process, getting through the line and not getting robbed, stabbed, and all that shit. But at that point, also, there won't be power. There won't be electricity. Your debit card's not going to work. The freezers aren't going to work. Everything's, if they have anything in there, it's going to be spoiled and old, and just canned goods. I think smart, if you want to watch the first few weeks of collapse and extinction, I think you have a few weeks or so worth of canned food and water and something to defend yourself. And that's going to be tough, because the more people realize that that house still has people in it, then they must have food and water, and you're going to become a target. And I'm already at the point where I don't sleep well. Can't sleep at night, and that doesn't mean that's not necessarily connected to the level of collapse we're at. That's just stress. But also, I do find myself worrying more and more about someone coming in. Like when you're asleep and somebody knocks on the door, and you're not awake to hear the knock, but it wakes you up. Like that, maybe the knocks plural, and then that last one is the one that wakes you up. It's the last knock. So when you wake up, you don't hear anything, and you're like, okay, it was just me dreaming. There's nobody there. Well, that happened to both Tammy and I think at the same time the other night. I really think maybe there could have been somebody at the door. Thankfully, they didn't try to get in or nothing, but woke me up. And then later on, I told her about it. And she said, I woke up too, someone knocking at the door. So it's really weird. We both had, if it was a dream, we both had the same fucking dream. So that kind of makes me think that, maybe somebody really was there. Yeah, it's just the stress of trying to maintain life. And, there's just less and less happiness, enjoyment, and more stress, because obviously you're losing the fun and the enjoyment out of life. And we were privileged to have any of that to begin with ever, right? Because something you said, Justin, that really hit home with me, that I thought you put it really well when we did my first interview with you on the channel before you were like officially co-host, or I brought you on as co-host. You had said that you appreciate another day, obviously because you're so young too. But at the same time, having that other day, you also recognize how we continue to another day around the living planet to dust, like Guy says. And then on top of that, all of the children and people who are oppressed and enslaved and just poor and just completely fucked, they also have to go through another day of pure hell, pure suffering, so that we can maintain our privilege here too, right? So that's kind of a fucking, that's another catch-22, damned if you do, damned if you don't, by living another day, right?
But we're here now, and let's get living.
Living is drinking.
So,
Wash the pain away.
so let's get into the news. And by that, I don't mean what you're going to see on CNN or ABC or whatever politics you're getting into. I'm talking about climate change. Going back to the 7th, and these are all headlines from climateandeconomy.com. There were floods in Afghanistan that on the 6th led to about 56 people dying. And by the 10th, that number was updated to 78. There was 10 people killed in floods in Iran. On the 9th of May, the earliest tropical storm in the Pacific was recorded. And that means like there's not been a tropical storm in the Pacific Ocean that early in the season, because the season actually doesn't start for 2 more days, the 15th. So we're already looking at a year that's quote unquote cooler, a little bit cooler than last year. We're already looking at hurricanes and storms forming early in the ocean. So obviously the ocean's not that cool. Anyway, there's wildfires in Arizona right now. A number of places experience flooding from heavy rain. And what I suggest a lot of the time, if you see a headline about flooding somewhere, that there's somebody on YouTube that posted a video from that area. So you can often confirm from a news station in that area or from somebody's phone that the flooding really did happen and it really was severe. So places such as central Mexico Angola in Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Colombia, China, and Oman in the Middle East all experienced flooding as of the news on May 10th. We have Siberian wildfires are obviously 1 million people are at risk of starvation in Madagascar. There's a persistent drought in Taiwan, and that actually was what you addressed earlier about shortages. There's been a drought in Taiwan for months that's contributing to a microchip shortage for computers because one of the super factories that makes them is in Taiwan, and they've had to use less water to make them. So that's another fun headline. May 10th was the hottest day in New Zealand in May. It was 82 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's basically their November right now. So that's a hot November day. There were microplastics detected in a glacier in Iceland. So that means enough of them are traveling through the air to land on glaciers and potentially heat them faster. That's a fun headline. And then did you want to jump in before I go to the next day of things?
No, I think you covered it. And I don't, and maybe you haven't gotten to Finland yet, but because Finland is
that's coming up.
Yeah, that's what this is good, Justin. Thank you.
No problem. Moving on to the 12th, and these are all from climateandeconomy.com, which is a big source of mine. A drought emergency was declared in California, which you should know. There was flooding in New Orleans, up to 6 inches of rain at one time, which is a lot. There's a drought in Iceland that farmers are worried about. Did you see something in the news about a storm last year? Hurricane Zeta was upgraded to a Category 3, which makes it the latest. It was October 28th, the latest in the year. That's almost November that a major hurricane. So the ocean's hot enough to produce major hurricanes up until November. So that's fun.
I was shocked by how long the storm season lasted into the fall. It was right up through the winter.
That's our new normal.
Right. Yep. And I expect the same, more of the same this year, and that's why I fear that if we see a BOE in even July or August, that it's going to get so hot in the Arctic that ice will not refreeze. That water will not refreeze. It'll just, the blue ocean, all that open water will be absorbing all that heat without any ice left to kind of mitigate. I don't think we're gonna, if we get a blue ocean early enough in the year this year, we'll see a refreeze, right?
Yeah. And even if we don't see a BOE this year, there could be a lot of disastrous consequences and an El Nino next year. So, I would look forward to not having a blue ocean event this year. I don't think we're out of the woods yet for that because of some things I can show you when we delve into a couple of data satellite sources in a little bit. But let me run through a couple more of the headlines. French apricots were harvested at a record low. So they have the yield hasn't been this low in 46 years for apricots in France. A different place in France recorded 12.88 inches of rain in a single 24-hour period, which is a huge amount of rain. There was more flash flooding in Afghanistan. Aside from the 78 people we already talked about dying, 6 more people were killed in those floods. There's flooding in Tajikistan. 25 people were killed in Somalia in floods. 1 person was killed in Kazakhstan in a wildfire. And then I saw an interesting article about how cyclones are contributing to Antarctic glaciers breaking up and calving faster. Those are just a couple tidbits from the week. And that was all in the last week of things that were reported. So week by week, we're seeing a huge increase in even headlines. And like I said, I can go through that a little bit when I share my screen.
Yeah, so one thing I want to touch on, Dawn says that we have 2 years to get started on cooling the earth and it's out of our hands. Actually, no, we know that, as Guy talks about and improves with, even the peer-reviewed literature shows that once one feedback loop is underway, that there's no stopping it, and that is that's an extinction level feedback loop, and there are dozens that are unlocked. So, Don, to comment on what you were saying, we actually are probably at like negative 102 years. You say we have 2 years left to get started on cooling the Earth before it gets out of our hands. No, I would say that we're a negative 102 years or more. And even if it's a few less, even my math is a little off right there. We're way beyond being able to stop this. And the whole thing about stopping this, we're not going to fucking change tomorrow. Even if we could, if it was like literally the day, let's just say that, let's throw all the science out and say that, tomorrow we got to stop burning fossil fuels. And, like Michael Mann says, tomorrow we stop burning fossil fuels and everything will go back to normal. No, we have decimated the planet. We've, paved over paradise. We've overpopulated. We've driven 150 to 200 species a day to extinction since 2010 and before. But 2010 is when the UN, really, that's when they kind of officially recognize. And this is the UN. As we know, they're conservative as fuck. So it's not, that's still a happy story. And that sells hopium that we can stop this, like that's what's beautiful about conservation biologists. They understand that all of the organisms have to be in place for everything to happen. Like when we wipe out a forest or clear cut or log, and then we replant trees, man cannot destroy habitat and then rebuild it on their own terms. All of those roots, all that is natural. Everything is, we can't just go replant trees. Yeah, the trees might grow, but that's not the way the earth was made to be. So we can't try to put the earth back together, even in just a little wooded area. You just can't, it doesn't fucking work. And I don't know why that's so hard for people to get and understand that we can't fucking manufacture nature. That's so stupid. Once you've cleared something, it's gone forever. All the animals, all the microorganisms, and orgasms too. There's no more or much less orgasms going to go on.
Wild.
Yeah.
Well, it's just cut down a forest. And that's another thing I didn't really learn until I followed Guyver's research, is that there's a lot of nutrients that the soils and the trees interchange within each other that are lost.
Yes.
There's a lot of water that's taken in from rainforests that once those rainforests are cut down, doesn't get distributed back into the soil and the trees, and it gets pushed off into the jet stream into other areas, and it increases flooding in other areas and increases droughts.
Yeah, you fuck up the water tables by yanking up those trees, and then even if you do replant them, it doesn't repair the water table. People just don't understand because they don't have a connection to nature. We've lost such a deep connection to that we're a part of nature, not smarter than and better than, but that's what we feel when we're told to feel we're in control, humans outsmart. No, that's why nature bats last, right? Nature's about to fucking shake us off like, please, man.
And nature nature doesn't just bat last. Nature bats last, but nature's been at bat this whole time. You know, there's a back and forth of innings of two teams in baseball, and our swing, you know, we're polluting the planet, and then, you know, kind of half-assing these solutions and not even really putting our energy into trying anything. And that's been since before I was born, obviously, not just talking about now. And then nature bats, and we get record heat, we get record storms, and then we try to do a little more and try to pollute a little less. We don't, and we pollute and have a record CO2 increase every year, and then nature bats again. So I feel like nature bats during the summer, every summer. And she's stepping up to the plate in about a month or two.
Yeah, right. I like that's a good analogy. Yep. I would absolutely agree with that, Justin. Don is asking for our thoughts on the mirror project. So here's the thing that I don't think people realize about the mirror project. It is wholesome, you know, it's not destructive. So even if it fails, we tried, you know, and it's not, you know, like Guy says, it's only buys us time. It doesn't fix anything. It just buys us a few more months, maybe a year or more years down the line. The collapse of there's so many collapses that you know, because it's all connected, but societal collapse, people are just getting shittier as people, you know, just more rude and self-centered and narcissistic and everything. The mirror reflection project isn't going to fix any of that, and that's where we're headed. It just gets worse and worse and worse. The thing that I love about the mirror project, even though I don't think it will ever get implemented, is people say that, you know, Guy and even people like us, we've given up. Well, if we support something like the mirror project that is not geoengineering, it doesn't fuck up the planet any more than we already have. It might keep our air conditioning unit running a little while longer for another day or so. And as we know that when rich people are on their deathbed, they will give up all their savings to their last dollar for another minute of time. It's important. Somebody that wants to live, especially if they've had enormous privilege and haven't had to struggle. So the fact that the Mirrors project still won't get implemented, all these people have geoengineering hope, and you know, people are going to figure it out. Like I used to think people are going to figure it out and they're going to stop it. No, man, they're not even going to do the fucking Mirrors project, which is the simplest, cheapest, and most effective thing that humans can do. They won't even fucking do that. But yet those same people will still blame Guy for
the situation
for giving up.
Yeah, well, the situation when you were younger and before you were born, there were solutions that were easier. There was a time when if everyone switched to solar panels and alternative fuels and consumed less, that it would have made a huge difference and turned literally the entire course of human history in a different direction. I don't think anybody should deny that as a fact, that in the last 100 years, there was a point where humanity could have made the decision to turn around and look at alternative ways of energy consumption, alternative ways of growth, or not growing, period. Trying that on for size, that could have really turned everything around. But I personally believe that time was past before I was born, which was 1993. So yeah, we can implement these technologies that, like you say, kick the can down the road. But kicking the can down the road is not building any more road. That's what people are not getting. You know, we can kick the can down the road. The road's going to come to an end eventually, and there won't be any place left to kick the can. And that's going to be really soon.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I don't think most people, I think people that are tuned in listening to us know, and I think there's like a good community in that, feeling a bond. But for the most part, even in a lot of people in near-term human extinction, even a lot of people that really follow or say they follow Guy's work, I see them, uh, uh, I see them, like you said, can kick. Uh, it's really weird. Like how do you not get this? And I try to remind people too that Guy is a scientist. He is more conservative than people realize. And so when he talks about, when he used to say 2030, there wouldn't be a human on the planet in 2030, like he was on that National Geographic, and then went to 2026. It's still the fucking bunker dwellers, the 1% with the nice bunkers with all the shit. They probably got a bowling alley down there. They probably got fucking hooker, hooker bars and hooker, just everything that you would need to carry on like some kind of a life underground, with UVB lights to give you the vitamin D and stuff that you need from the sun. And because pretty soon the underground bunker dwellers, if they open the hatch, they're going to be letting in ionizing radiation, enormous heat, stuff that you don't want into your safe space. It's literally going to be a safe space. And like I talked about, these psychos will go crazy locked up together like that, and it'll be nasty, and they won't live. Even I've had friends say that, well, their underground bunkers are probably nicer than you think, Joey. Well, yeah, but they're still fucking living underground. You can't do that. People that live in a submarine, underground submarine, underground undersea submarine, those people go crazy, because they're under the sea. They don't see daylight or land or anything for months. And I did that in the Coast Guard above the sea, and it was hard. And it literally drove me crazy. I wanted to jump off every day, but I was worried about getting sucked up into the props and getting chewed up. And also, obviously, I'm just going to float in the water and wait for something to eat me or drown. That's fucking no way to go either. That's exactly what living in a bunker would be like. It's fuck. Those people won't last long, especially if they're rich and they've had all this privilege. Now you take your privilege to an underground bunker, they're going to get sore. And I mean, they're already sore. They're already fucked up people. And put them together in a little, no matter how big the bunker is, you can have fucking underground stadiums. Do that. It still won't. If they're not outside and seeing the daylight, it'll drive people crazy. It's not what we were designed to be, and not how we were designed to live, right?
I mean, the world will be a different place without electricity. The world will be a different place without cable and internet. And we were talking about how food was going to get spoiled on the shelves. And I don't entirely see it that way, because I worked in a store, and at the point where the public panicked and bought everything, all the food sold, even stuff that was going to go bad in a few days, it was all sold. So I think we're going to see this truck stop coming, and people in the store fighting over the last couple 3 things and getting stabbed. But the the store being empty, and then people stop showing up because they form a line day after day and the trucks aren't coming. Or somebody gets tired of that and burns it down, or whatever happens. I think that's going to happen first. And
Yeah,
we're already seeing that very slowly in the form of prices going up now. Yeah, today prices are increasing. A couple months from now, they might be really high, and then a year or two from now, they're not available, period. And these are foodstuffs. These aren't just toys or leisure entertainment items. These are things that people need to survive, and we're not going to be able to, not going to be stocked on shelves.
yeah. Fuck, people. I was gonna say people need coffee. They think they need coffee. I need rum. I think I need rum, but that shit's going away too. And if you don't have your coffee or I don't have my rum, that's a fucking barrier to freedom. that's a that's a that's a shitty day. But at the same time, if you're cooking in wet bulb or you've got an Arctic blast bleeding out and you're cold as shit, it's really, really wild seeing this all really coming together. We're seeing the jet stream, right, Justin? The jet stream is just, it's gonna we're not gonna grow food. I worry about our food supply next month, let alone a year from now.
Forget stream exists.
Chance to put rum in your coffee, but when they're both extinct, you have neither. You can't even. But rum and coffee is not a bad idea.
Yeah. Basically, flu. Flu is good.
Justin, is there anything else you wanted to talk about or cover before we move into looking at some satellite data and stuff? Did you get through all your news?
I think now's a good time to start looking at it.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for all the news stuff. That was really relevant.
Welcome.
I miss guys morning headlines.
Mhm.
I really like that in his connection to the stock market. And you're really good with economics too. You understand all of that kind of stuff, yeah, even better than I do. And I'm no expert by any means, but I understand the gist and the lies and and that kind of thing, obviously. But there's a lot more deeper information to get into. And I'll shut up now so you can take us through this null school.
So this is first we can look at sea surface temperature. My audio is okay still?
Yeah, it sounds good. And
talking really loud into my computer. But so these green temperatures, I'll do Fahrenheit for us goofy Americans. 48 degrees. There's kind of a barrier of cold right here that you can see. And I don't know off the top of my head, but these temperatures, I believe, are a bit abnormal. And then if you go to the anomaly, which is how hot above average it is, you can see there's 6 degrees Fahrenheit anomalies in the Atlantic. When there's an anomaly here in this part of the Pacific Ocean, that usually signifies an El Nino coming.
Oh shit.
If this anomaly right here of 5 degrees gets way bigger and starts covering that, and then by the end of this summer into winter, then we can probably assume that El Nino will be here next year. In the Pacific, there's a huge amount of heating. This is 6 degrees, and even up by Alaska, there's a lot of warm water temperatures.
Yeah, that's nuts, dude.
If you go to the air,
we know that El Nino is a game ender, right? I think somebody in the chat, I forget who, mentioned that before. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, an El Nino came over. And what time frame would you put if we go into El Nino? What kind of, do you have an idea of time frame that you would guess?
Well, it depends if the next El Nino is hot enough to produce wet bulb temperatures on a global scale, or if the next El Nino is just going to be the catalyst for the ice disappearing and the methane to come out, which will give us a lag of a year, potentially two. I don't really see 2 years after next year's El Nino. That's a long time. But we could either see heating that takes a lot of people out next year, and some people this year. Obviously, there's going to be heat waves this year. But
Oh God, yeah, we're already seeing that.
We could see next year and the
Northern Hemisphere.
years where most humans disappear, 22 and 23. Not that scores aren't disappearing already in random floods and landslides and different diseases popping up aside from the pandemic that's going on.
Yeah, like I don't even understand how people are alive in Puerto Rico, as Puerto Rico was hit so hard last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I think it was
like
more
3
than 2
years
years
ago
ago.
now. Yeah,
They've been hit multiple times. So all throughout anywhere around the equator, I'm blown away that there's still any kind of a my company just sold a trailer, a jetter trailer, to somewhere in the Virgin Islands, maybe St. Thomas. And I got a phone call today from the customer looking for the invoice number. They could get the trailer out of customs. And I was just blown away. I'm like, how the fuck do you guys even have like communications? And because we've seen wet bulb temperatures already all throughout the tropics and anywhere throughout the equator. It just blows my mind that there's still any kind of a life there. But we know that exponentially it's obviously they're going to completely go off the grid first, but it's going to be pretty quick too, because it's just going exponential worldwide.
Okay, so accident. So this is the Navy data. I'll look at Polar View first. Polar View is data, I think, comprised from the University of Bremen, and then cross-place models, if you will. So if you zoom in, notice there's a lot of open water here on the northwestern side of Alaska, and then there's that open water we discussed on an earlier video on the other side. There's also cracks forming here. There's cracks forming here. A lot of this ice is very thin and brittle. And this is very interesting to me. You see this line right here?
Oh yeah.
So if you go on CAMS and you look at surface level methane from the last 5 days, where it comes out is here, this area, which is right here. And then if you cross-reference that with the Navy model data, you can see this area is where the ice kind of goes away like that a little bit. I think that is a bit of a concern personally, because the farther this ice gets away from the coast, there's more heating going into the dark land mass of the rocks. So it kind of heats the ice and melts it, and it retracts away from the land. But that heating also gets reflected into the surrounding water, and that further melts the ice away from it. So there's also if you look at last year, so let's go through 12 months really quick. If you look at last year, it looks worse in May. right here, and you can see how fast the ice melted last year,
Holy shit.
where it just disappeared like that. We'll see that.
Yeah,
this year.
that's because that's right. We were so close to a BOE last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I haven't seen
So,
that. Wow.
Yeah. So if you pay
Holy
attention,
shit.
if you pay attention to these edges, you'll notice that this edge kind of goes about here, but kind of retracts a bit. So now we're going into the winter season, and this is coming up into now. Do you notice how this edge is there's this kind of hook, this heat current, where the ice didn't really reform all the way.
Yeah. You can see, you can
Kind of
in
melting
that
now.
video, you can literally see the current of the warm water coming in, right?
Yeah. So that was a 12-month time lapse. And notice the ice is a little bit thicker here, but we don't have that. Do you see this difference? Like there's so much extra open water to work with already early in the season.
Yeah.
That's just going to further the feedback loops of heating. That's going to further how fast it takes. And also, I pulled up a couple of these just for show. You know, I said you can YouTube
Jesus Christ.
the places. This is Tajikistan, a place that not a lot of people know. These are just, people on their cell phones. Take random video.
Yeah, you won't see this kind of stuff on the news because they want to tell you that everything's, little flooding, everything's fine. People are still passing through, but they're not going to show you the real devastation.
Absolutely.
And it's happening, in so many areas. It's not just this area that's flooded today or, this week, or it's, everything's kind of turned into a light switch. With derechos, we're going to see more derechos. We're going to see more pingos. Those are two terms that I never knew. I learned that last year because it should happen. And knowing now that this year, that's just going to be way more common. That's fuck, dude. That's nightmare shit.
I figured I would wrap up my info with that. Is there anything you wanted to wrap with, Joey? Any
I can't think of anything really. I'd probably think of a lot more better stuff to say. It's time for a shot though, because this is drunk, stoned, and scared. And maybe we'll add stupid for myself, because it's time for another shot.
green tea shots?
Yeah, it's everything's pretty horrifying. Thank everybody for being in the chat. Thank everybody for checking out the channel.
Thank everybody that asked some questions and kept us busy amongst all the other stuff going on. Hey.
Yeah, and Byron missed out. I don't see Byron in the chat, so this is probably the most scientific.
Hey, it'll be archived.
Right. Yeah, we'll tag him in the archive.
Check it out. Tell anybody that missed us live, you can check out any of the Collapsing with Casey episodes or any of our live streams on YouTube.
Yeah.
Search Collapsing with Casey.
Try to do them on Fridays, but you're doing a show tomorrow night, which is awesome. I'm so glad you're doing that, because it's that it's going to be a moment, a memory that you can, when you do it, when you play a show, right, there's a high from that lasts for a very long time after getting off stage, playing a good set, nailing your marks. That's kind of a freedom and enjoyment of life that is for most people not only going away, but I don't think most people even get to experience something like that. Being on stage and doing an exciting show. I don't think most people get to experience. I think it's really beautiful to anybody that does and can, especially Justin, you're so young that you haven't lived long enough to get burnt out. And, like you see all these rock stars, like, oh, I just had to do all the fucking drugs and fuck all the women, because what the fuck else is there to do, right? And it's like you become so privileged that playing a good show is just normal. It's not even fun anymore. So you might as well, the only way to step up your game and have more fun that night after the show is, now you got to shoot some heroin. Well, now, another year later, you got to shoot more heroin. And with all this money coming in, if you're signed and you're a big deal, and, and then there's all the stress with interviews and touring and playing the same stuff that now you're sick of playing over and over again, especially like as a one-hit wonder band, you just had like one hit wonder, and then you have to do heroin all the time. It's like, I'm so fucking sick of that song. I want to play new shit. Nobody wants to hear your new shit because they just want to hear, Islands in the Stream for the 50th time or something stupid.
I hear the old shit. Yeah, man. I mean, if there's 10 people at this thing and there's 3 bands and we're playing last, so if everybody doesn't pack up and leave by the time we play, after 9 or whatever, I'm happy with that. And I'm going to we're only playing like 6 or 7 songs. And I'm going to treat it like, that's my big tour show, is driving 20 minutes down the road to this, Nowhereville farm garage and playing loud music and having fun.
I think it's beautiful, man. I think it's beautiful. That's what it's all about. I got fired from my race this weekend because of, I had people in the motorcycle racing community are so they're so self-centered, they're so privileged that they're pro-war, they're just completely ignorant to everything that's going on, just like my own family. So these people that I were, not, I don't know, they're not my friends anymore, but when I was younger, some of them were my best friends. These people I spent pretty much every day with at times, doing my newspaper with them and doing the DMXS radio show with them. So yeah, if anybody wants to, throw any of them, I won't go there. I won't be that dirty. But yeah, it's frustrating, and I feel like I'm glad that I'm not friends with any of those people anymore too, because I called it. I called it, and I told them they were. I told my best friend Kevin Kelly at the time, when I was in the 90s, I was like, we live in a Nazi country. And he told me I was stupid and all this and that. Of course, like they always do. Sure enough, man, I wasn't wrong. We've always lived in a Nazi country. I learned about Operation Paperclip. I didn't know that at the time, so I couldn't like pull up the data, and say, fuck you, I'm right. Here you go, read this. And even if they do read shit like that, it's no different than what we all point out with the peer-reviewed literature, history, just the how the system works, and it's self-repeating and constant, and it's all lies, all bullshit. But people won't. They won't. They refuse to see it because the truth is so bad. It's so harsh. It's so terrible. It's so over the top of what most people's brains can fathom, put together, agree to. That, well, then therefore it just must not be real. It must not be. You must be crazy if you think that that's the way it is, and that's what's going on, and that's what's going to happen. Because that's just they want to live in their fairy tales, because they were taught about Santa Claus when they were 5, and they just remember Santa Claus. Well, I want to make kids and tell them about Santa Claus. Wonderful. Because all those poor kids make those toys for pennies on the year. You know, and now it's even coming home to roost here, like just like Desiree working for your girlfriend working for Amazon, driving delivery trucks. You got to do like 100, 200 packages deliveries a day. It's impossible. And even if you can and do that, that's minimum of 10-hour day, and still no health care, no benefits, no paid time off, no nothing. We have just lost every little fucking crumb we used to fight for, and we used to get a little bit of a crumb. And if you live in Europe, you get 30 days and you get health care. We pay for Israel's health care, and we don't have health care, yet we pay for it. And then we still side with Israel, and we still think that the Palestinians are the terrorists. Fuck. So disgusting. Just, God, it's disgusting.
Yeah, and it's gonna ramp up this summer. So did you want to, we don't have like a tagline to wrap it with anything, so we gotta work on that. Or we can be like, this has been Collapsing with Casey. I'm Justin Lasso. This is Joey Casey. Thank you all for joining us on this lovely Thursday evening instead of Friday. Yeah. And we'll hope to see you again either in our next interview or our next live stream. Carry on. And then you just like